Hi, and welcome to the Journey to Awakening podcast. I'm Ron Ario, author of Journey to Awakening and the Quantum Performance Coach. And I have a guest with me today, Leesa McGregor. So Leesa, let me just share a little bit about you before we launch in to what your mission's all about, okay? So Leesa's the founder of the movement New Alphabet for Humanity. She's a two-time author, entrepreneur, and a proud mother who believes it's never too early for children to live their dreams, follow their hearts, and know that anything is possible. Her first book was about traveling the world with her 2-year-old. Her current book is A New Alphabet for Humanity. She's passionate about inspiring positive change and creating a better world. So Leesa, welcome, and very happy to have you. Okay.
I'm happy to be here connecting with you today.
And I have to tell you, when I first heard your voice, I recognized your energy was, well, first of all, you got a beautiful energy, okay? Really beautiful, and it really resonates with your voice, and you can feel that maternal quality that you have. It emanates from you. And I actually did some sneaking around on your Facebook, and then I went to your husband's site, and I could get a little bit about your family, and I watched your video of your website, alphabetforhumanity.com, and your son is absolutely amazing. He's got a pristine energy. He's so pure. He's really beautiful, and so your work is coming through in your life. So my first question for you is, I just want to ask you, what inspired you to write this book? Because I know you're going to explain it kind of took a life of its own, but what initially inspired you to write this book?
Such a beautiful question. Thank you for all of that. I'm taking that in. Oh, it's such an interesting story. I was at the beach with my son one day, and I was, just spending time with him, and we're playing with rocks, and he looked at me, and I really felt like his soul was speaking to me. And it was really asking me, like, what else do you have for me, Mom? What have you got for me? And I realized in that moment, I sort of did my work to teach him the alphabet and teach him the letters and the numbers and the colors. That was, job done. And it was like this look in his eye. It's like, what else have you got for me, Mom? And it dawned on me in that moment. I thought, why is it that I haven't taught my son what the word compassion is? Why is it that I haven't taught him what empathy means, what gratitude means? And I realized, I thought, gosh, I could actually write out a list of words, positive, inspiring words that I could teach him to be a great human being. And so the idea came to me, and it was such divine inspiration. I can't even explain it, because it came streaming through me, and I wrote down the words. I had this little notepad with me in my bag, and I wrote down the words, and I came home and I shared them with my husband. I said, I want to teach Max this new alphabet. And I literally just wrote out all the words, and he looked at me and goes, Leesa, this is absolutely profound. He goes, you've literally rewritten the alphabet. And so I started teaching these words to my son, and I thought, wow, I was getting all excited about this idea. Imagine how different the world would be if we all learned these words from an early age. And as a woman in my 40s, I thought it's bizarre to me that I'm still learning myself how to connect with my heart and live in the present moment and be grateful, and what empathy really means, what diversity means, right? I feel like a lot of us, we're still learning that. We're still in that school of understanding those words and embodying them. And so I realized it's just never too early for our children to learn these words. And Max proved it to me. I mean, he was 3 at the time when I got the idea. He's now 4, and he picked it up. He got it. He understood. And I could share countless examples since then about how he's showing me an example of how he's, being compassionate or empathetic or grateful. And it just warms my heart completely. So that really is where it all began.
Yeah, it's amazing when you watch the video on your website and you're asking him, what does A mean? What does B mean? And he's saying these words. I only remember A is for abundance. What's B for?
Bravery.
Bravery,
So just
because I've been telling people about you. And so all I can remember is A. So B is for bravery. And I got to tell you, so when I felt your energy and I felt your enthusiasm and I felt how strong it is, just like your husband, when he had the reaction to you, I had the same reaction to you. And I said, this is a global mission. This woman's voice needs to be heard. This is a global mission, because the compassion and the heart that is embedded in the vibration of what you're doing is another level. It's a complete, and just like you said, so many of us are trying to learn all those qualities that you've depicted in the alphabet, your new alphabet right now, especially at this time, because especially at this time, adults need to read these darn things. You know what I mean? They really, really do. And so, explain to me the process of how this started to evolve. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm just teary because my heart is just opening as you're sharing this. Where do I start? I mean, I've been writing in my journal for about 10 years now. This question: how can I make a difference in education? And this, I really truly feel I was the messenger for this book. This book came through me. It was a message. And I realized again, this whole way of being is so important for our children to learn, how to be great humans, but also as adults to be reminded of those things that really allow us to live a meaningful, happy, fulfilling life. And so the book really, I'll share sort of a cover here.
Please.
It's secretly encoded for the parents and for people. In fact, I have a fellow in India that's using it as part of his executive leadership group to teach leaders to get back connected with their hearts. And the second epiphany I had after creating this book was this recognizing, this realization that a lot of the challenges we have in the world right now do stem from disconnection. And if we are to teach our children how to connect with themselves so they have that inner connection, how they can connect with each other meaningfully, and then how can they connect with nature? How can they fall in love with nature and the earth? And I realized even before, after creating the book, that's what this was all about. It was about reinstilling a connection with ourselves, each other, and the earth. And I just feel like this is really the direction that we're all sort of awakening to, right? This idea of reconnecting.
Well, when you say awakening, so when we go through a process of awakening, we go through a process of returning to our childlike state. So when you say this book is embedded, awakening is can be a violent process when we go through awakening, because all of the programs and dogmas and all those things that keep us trapped in a little box gets exploded. And then what's left is this very sensitive, childlike part of our nature, which really never goes away. It exists within us always, but we're covered with all this stuff. And so this book is also for adults, to remind them to go back to their childlike nature, to remind them and reconnect. So you're actually facilitating an awakening process. This is way more powerful than people can see on the surface. I get it. Okay. So where was it? I don't know if I read it in your website or from one of your husband's posts, but when you first introduced the idea to him, he says, "This is big. This is so much." So what's your plan? What's your plan to get this into schools, to curriculum, et cetera, et cetera?
Thank you for asking. It's beautiful. My husband's been the most incredible support for this, and cheerleading me, and just it's been so beautiful. And we realized that this is really truly a tool that can be used for community connection, for schools, for teachers. And that's what's been happening, is that someone will come and buy the book, and then they'll come back and get 20 or 30 and share it with all the teachers they know. And so it's kind of evolving itself. In answer to your question, my true heart's desire with this book is that it does become part of education curriculum for young children, and that we find ways to get the book out there in distribution in a big way. But really, my driving force behind the book is to make a difference. And so, for every book that we sell, we plant a tree, and I give books to schools and families in need. And that's what lights me up. It's really just this new model of how we even do business in the world. I've been an entrepreneur for many years, and I've been very passionate about social and environmental change. And I feel like things like this, a book or whatever it is that we offer to the world, we can do that in such a beautiful way where it impacts so much more than just what it is. So in answer to your question, I feel, my full realization of the vision for the book is that it becomes that tool for communities, for educators, for, a primary school, to have this as a tool to discuss and have meaningful conversation. And of course, for parents, busy parents, I realize I wrote the book for them as well, because a lot of us get to the end of the day, we're so busy in our lives. And it feels sad in some ways when you look at your child at the end of the day and you say, what did I teach them today? What is it that I taught that was meaningful? And so I realized, even after writing the book, that's actually another reason I wrote it, was because I wanted something for a busy parent to be able to have meaningful conversation and teach something really meaningful at the end of the day with those precious 2 hours they have at the end of the day with their children.
Well, I see boardrooms, CEOs, if they have the courage, seriously, to bring this into their environment. Because oftentimes, and I've been a CEO, and part of my mission is inspiring and working with CEOs, because I do feel they're the change agents for our world right now. Okay. And often when we create mission statements for our corporations, we'll have values such as this embedded into our mission statements as a barometer for how to behave within the company structure, And so I can see this really lending itself to, how do we want our company to behave? What values do we want to imbue within our company? How do we solve conflict? Okay. How do we inspire each other? How do we accept our differences within the company? And so it's really bigger. And I know you have a poster with the whole alphabet and all the words on. Okay.
I do. Yes.
Okay. So you recommend that parents get that and put that right in their house, because that's really an example of how the family structure behaves.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Like just the very idea of how we can connect deeper with our hearts and really just live in that vibration of love. I mean, that everything that I put into the book was about bringing people back to the heart connection and the love vibration and just that respect for nature and love of nature, all of it.
Well, you probably already have this idea, but I'm going to challenge you. Because you've inspired me. You absolutely inspired me. So when we look at the family structure and we look over the last 40, 50 years, especially in the United States, it's completely broken down. That nuclear family has completely broken down. The need for two-income families, to where you rush the child off to the babysitter and this and that, that you don't get that time and the hectic pace in which two parents come home. One picks up the child, they come home, they make a meal, and they start the next day all over again, and they're rushing. And that whole process has been speeding up the last 20, 30 years. And it doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon, unless we view what's happening to us in this moment right now during this COVID-19 era to reevaluate. And I think what you've created is something that can really be utilized. So if you haven't already thought about it, I think that's another arm that really should be generated in your mission, you know, to bring back that family structure. Mhm.
Thank you. This is so true. I think right now, I've been saying this, I've shared a few videos on my Facebook page about how I feel we're living through a time where we're literally creating a revolution in values. And we're really questioning our value systems in this time. And how do we shift those values so that they are truly in alignment with our well-being within our homes. I was even saying to my husband, I'd love to create a program for high achieving people, and CEOs and people that are high performance and high achievers, how to actually create a well-being plan for your home. And I think that's what's happening right
Oh,
now, is that
wow.
we're all
Wow.
starting to reevaluate what does it mean to live a fulfilling life and not be on this economic treadmill all the time that creates all of this busyness that's actually really only designed to grow the economy, not designed for for well-being. Our economy is actually not designed for well-being. That is the fundamental issue, I believe. And it's just, there's so much reorganizing happening right now, I feel, at a higher level. And that's it. It's just reinstilling values. And
Well, you got to
very
tell me a
hard.
little bit about your background, because the scope of what you're talking about right here is really major leadership scope. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your background and how, because I know as I've grown in my own personal life, I've had stepping stones along the way that have given me the courage to take on more, or to expand myself, or see my vision even grow, more. So kind of explain to me how you've arrived to this point, because I see you taking off. I see what you have to say and share is so fundamental right now, and the timing's perfect, like you said. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try and give you the short version. I'm a woman in my 40s. I'm 42. In my 20s, I was very lucky. I was really a go-getting kind of woman. I went out there, I traveled, and by the time I was 25, I found myself in a really successful position. I built a multi-million dollar company, and I traveled the world. And then after that experience, I started to have this nagging feeling inside that I had really achieved everything I'd ever wanted as far as traveling the world and making all this money and building a company, and I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And so I would find myself running off to a yoga studio in the evenings to console myself and try and work out why I wasn't happy. And I felt like I was sold a fake bill of goods. Society teaches us that we should be achieving and getting our degree or college degree, go out there and make all this money. And I was so unhappy. I had investment property, I had my house. It was just like, I was just unhappy. And it really did lead me down a spiritual journey. And I thought to myself, if I'm supposedly so successful, why do I feel like this inside? There was a values misalignment. And from that moment, I realized, if for my life to feel meaningful, for me to feel truly fulfilled inside, would come from me feeling like I was making a meaningful contribution to the health and well-being of people on the planet. And so I just had this spiritual journey that started to unfold from there. And I thought, like, how can I make a meaningful difference? And, for the last 10 years, I've been so passionate about this idea of business as a vehicle for change, as a force for good. And how can we reinvent business so that it is truly a vehicle for social and environmental change. And now we're moving into an era of business being fueled by a higher purpose, right? Finding a way for a business to contribute to the well-being of the whole, as opposed to that model that we were sort of all taught around shareholder returns. And, there's just that primary stakeholder, right, is the shareholder. Whereas now we're moving into that era of just shareholders or stakeholders, right? Like stakeholder, the environment and community. And so I see like the sea change is happening and I'm excited, but this has been sort of part of my other mission, behind the children's book is also this whole idea of really creating a world that works for everyone to the best of our ability through the vehicle of business or what we're doing individually.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty common story. I went through that as well, especially if you grow up and you have aspirations, you have a vision of what success is. And then when you arrive there and you have the money and you have this, and you realize I'm still not as happy as I thought I was going to be once I arrived at this destination, you know? And I think
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
yeah. And so, one of the things I've inspired when I've been in business leadership, it's been my mantra has been purpose. What's your purpose in life? And have that purpose be the foundation for your business success, because that's a foundation that won't go away, because it requires authenticity. It requires a certain integrity. It requires you really to be congruent, within very high level values. But I want to go back to your awakening process, because I know for many of us that know we're on the planet for a reason, we know we came here for a reason, was your, and, and I actually was talking to Sayen about this, in my interview with him. We have gradual awakenings, but then did you have a moment where, boom, where things just really shifted dramatically? And if so, explain that, because that's one of my motivations for having this podcast, Journey to Awakening, is to have people share their awakening stories, so that those that are in the process, because more are in the process right now than no. They don't know. They see their life in crisis, but they don't know they're going through an awakening, and one day they're going to get there. So can you explain that, please?
Oh, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I was traveling back and forth between Australia and California every 6 weeks, building a company. And I tuned into a lecture at Stanford University. And this entrepreneur was talking about how there are some really big problems in the world in relation to systems that operate, right? So food, energy, water, healthcare, and education. And he says, if as an entrepreneur, you have opportunities to take the world's biggest challenges and solve them and be part of that, be part of systems change. And in that moment, it was like this, I don't know what it was, eureka moment. I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. If I really want to make a difference, there's such an opportunity to be part of systems change. And how do we take these systems that many of us are seeing right now are breaking down? And how do we create new systems that are truly about a future that is sustainable and regenerative? And so that was my awakening. I listened to that podcast. It was literally an audio podcast at the time. This was way before podcasts. It was just something on my iTunes. And I thought, this is amazing. Imagine just dedicating all your energy to creating business solutions and ways that you can be part of solving social and environmental problems. And I sort of felt like anything else that I would do from that moment forward in my career would be meaningless if I wasn't contributing to systems change in some capacity. And so, little did I know that systems change was going to come in the form of a children's book, like this is the piece for education. I trusted the process that this came through. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about how we are all banding together as new Earth leaders to really to forge a new path that is really a new story for humanity, and being part of that systems change.
That's awesome. And you can thank Max for that.
That's right.
Max had a reason. Max inspired you. He was inspiring you before he came.
Yeah. So true. So true. It's very, very special and sacred assignment with this little guy. And I feel as a mom, such a sense of inspiration and responsibility to create a better world. And really, what am I doing today? I may not know what I'm doing today is going to impact in the next 2 years. But what about thinking about the idea of being a great ancestor? What am I doing today that will impact generations in the future? And that's really what lights me up. And it's almost bringing out a sense of fierceness and sort of like, what is the word? Just, I'm not going to apologize for sharing my ideas and trying to move the world forward and being passionate about that, because I feel a responsibility to our kids to do that.
Like a warrior. Yeah, yeah. And I see in Max's energy, he's got a purpose as well. He's definitely an extension, because his energy, he vibrates at a very high level. I'm sure he's dropped a few little things here and there that you've picked up on as far as his purpose. No?
Can I share something just profound? I get things from him all the time. He connects the dots. It's like children want to learn the context of things. I was building a little fort with him the other day out of just a used box, like a cardboard box, and we were creating a spaceship. And we put a little toilet roll on the top of the spaceship. And he says, "Mom, that's the chimney for the spaceship." And I said, "Oh, fantastic." And I said, "What else do you want to put on your spaceship?" He says, "Let's put some feathers on top of the chimney so that we can block the carbon emissions from going into the atmosphere."
Whoa.
He's 4 years old.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
I mean, I've talked about climate, and but I certainly haven't given the full spectrum of, the realities of it. And he just came out with that. And I just feel such a responsibility to
Absolutely.
do the work,
Sure.
just to bring forward this world that we want for our kids.
So 2 things. One, when your vision's complete, what do you see?
I see systems change. I see right now, as the world is arguably coming down, and we're having this breakdown, that this leads to the breakthrough, and we truly transition into that world that is really sustainable and regenerative. And at a personal level, my heart's desire is to be part of all this systems change, to really lead people into the future and just inspire them and give them hope that that's where we're going.
What kind of systems do you have right now that you're planning on rolling out to get it into education?
Certainly the book, really just this whole idea of balancing heart and mind education. So heart-based education is the one piece. And then I look at business as well, inspiring more businesses to align with a greater purpose. And I'm very excited about that. In fact, I put a training together recently on how a business can align with something like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are big global goals that we can sort of all aspire to. So I'd love to help in that area. And really just, climate, I've always said, like, climate, education, food, water, health, and education. Those are my big ones.
Yeah, but where I'm actually going is, do you know the people that are necessary to talk to get it into kindergartens and into schools and get it into their curriculums? Do you know those people, and do you know the avenue you need to take to inspire that change, to actually get your book in classrooms?
I'm just working through it. I mean, in all honesty, I've been it's been a whirlwind, and I've been sort of just working on kind of the business aspect of fulfilling the books in different places where it's selling around the world. And this year, that's my intention, is to connect with those leaders in education. So in answer to your question, I'm still working through the strategy for that. And
that's not a judgment, by the way. That's just me trying to support you,
Yeah, so I love it. I love it.
So anybody that's watching this right now, if you know somebody in education, if you know somebody at a district level or a state level that's in education, then contact Leesa. And so that this value can be brought into the classroom, because it's really important, because unfortunately our education system only teaches children how to remember and repeat things back, and it's useless. Let's face it. It's like a place where you send your kids to the state for a moment, and the state
Yeah.
teaches them to repeat back mantras about history and about life now and about things that they never use when they go into the real world. And we need something like this. This is the tip of the iceberg. We need critical thinking. We need like even more of an Eastern philosophy being brought in. We need more meditation. We need children being able to connect with, taking time to connect with their hearts. We need children to be able to become more aware of their intuitive sense, to where they can truly live and interact in a world that supports their soul, their multidimensionality, who they truly are as a being, you know. And I think this is a wedge. This is a wedge that you're opening up to that, that, because we need to create space and not have an environment where you can't come to this school unless your child is vaccinated. You know what I mean? Or things of this nature. I mean, this is a wedge, and you've got a big mission on your hands. You need,
I really do.
you do, and you need to. There's a lot of people that need to gravitate you, and you got the leadership ability to put this together and the heart together. So if I'm just like flowing right now, so what I see is you not only not being apologetic, but being absolutely fearless to reach out to the leaders in the highest places possible and beat their doors down.
Absolutely. And thank you. You're infusing a new sense of energy around this. And I have started to do that. I've been looking at different influencers and people, and just, I have been doing a little bit of outreach, like as an example, Marianne Williamson. I'd love to get her a copy of the book. And just to really, I absolutely, thank you. That's such a gift that you're sharing that with me. And I'm committed. I mean, I do feel that this is bigger than me. This is nothing to do. I'm just the vehicle to get this through to the world. And yes, an education that balances heart and mind is essential for our children to thrive. They will not thrive with just a knowledge-based education. That is not going to take them anywhere. Artificial intelligence, all the technologies that are coming online, we're going to be made irrelevant quickly if we are not beings that are truly about ourselves, about humanity, about our heart connection, all of it.
And about nature and reconnecting with nature, because children unfortunately are being guided to technology. They don't play outside anymore.
Yes.
We used to play out in the trees, and it doesn't happen anymore, and we're losing that. We really are moving more towards artificial intelligence, and we're losing that sense of being. And I believe what we're going through right now is definitely a reset to move things in another direction, because the path we're on for humanity is unsustainable as anything other than an artificial being, creating an artificial world.
Yes.
And I talk about it, and this is one of my mantras I've been preaching, that people need to realize more and more, but we live in an intelligent, energetic biosphere. And the best way I can explain it is in one of my posts I did recently. It's like, how do you explain water to a fish? It came to me like, boom, this is the best way to get it into people's minds and hearts. But how do you explain water to a fish? The water doesn't seem tangible to the fish. The fish is just moving within it, but it doesn't necessarily see itself separate. It's just a part of its existence. The biosphere we live within is energetic, but it's no different than the water. It's just another substance, and we're swimming in it. And it's interconnected with every aspect of our being. And like I say, the same intelligence that blossoms the flower divides our cells. We are completely immersed in this biosphere, and that's your part of your mission. You have a spiritual contract. You have absolutely a spiritual contract to fulfill. And you are embarking on that spiritual contract right now. And so for you, it's about being absolutely fearless. Yes. Because you're being supported. Because here's the thing: when we become on purpose, we become a service. And when we become a service, there's a benevolence that gathers behind us to support our actions and intentions. And so when we really truly become a service to humanity, we elicit that support at a very high level. And you're completely supported. So as you reach out to these people and places that can actually be a part of making decisions, you're 100% supported.
This is such a gift. Our conversation today is such a gift. It truly is. And I'm very grateful. And I celebrate our shared divinity and our shared understanding of what's really needed right now.
Yeah, there's many pieces to the puzzle, and there's many instruments needed to create a symphony. You know what I mean? And you've got your lane. You've got your lane, you know, and it's vital. It's vitally necessary for sure. For sure. So Leesa, well, first of all, how can people get in contact with you?
Either through my website, leesamcgregor.com, with Leesa with 2 E's, so Leesa, McGregor, McGregor. If you're interested, I'm sure you would be after the conversation on New Alphabet for Humanity. It's the website is Alphabet for Humanity. And if you feel called to purchase a book, we plant a tree for every book that we sell. And I just really, I'm putting out a beacon of light right now to really connect the like minds and so that we can all support each other in the shared mission to create a brighter future for humanity. So I'm just tremendously grateful that we are connected and that we're able to create this amplification and call together more leaders and more change makers to really be part of guiding us into the future.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any last words of wisdom for your vision and your mission that you would like to leave for parents, for mothers, any inspiration that you'd like to leave?
I think the thing that I've been really living into recently is just that our most important education is really the education of the heart, how to connect with the heart, how to live from the heart, how to trust the heart's wisdom, and really to live in that vibration of love. I've been saying for a long time that as a mother, we have so much love for our children and our families. And if we can find more ways to extend that love outward, to love our fellow humans as much as we love our families, I mean, and just imagine how the world would be. And so that's really the wisdom I've been tuning into through this work, and just my heart's desire is that we all learn how to connect deeper with our hearts, trust our hearts, and really just recognize that also the connection to nature. That's a really big piece, that our love of instilling a love of nature in our children and also for ourselves is one of the greatest acts of change that we can take in right now. It's just nature is essential for our moving forward.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Leesa McGregor. Oh. So anybody listening, don't hesitate to reach out to Leesa. If you can support her mission, get her book, share her book with your children, your families, and even for those business leaders, if you have the courage to bring a children's book into your boardroom to establish a real higher level communication amongst your executive teams and peers, and really bring a heart-based perspective to your business, because that's the direction we're going. So this has been the Journey to Awakening podcast. I'm Ron Ario, and we'll see you on the other side.